Empress Zeril Fez slammed her crested gauntlet onto the obsidian dais of the flagship's grand auditorium, the resonant chime silencing the murmur of assembled courtiers. By the eternal lineage of Meridian, I claim command of this fleet. The peace technical treaty with the frontier provinces demands a human technical attaché. Failure here unravels the pact, cedes our borders, and questions my throne itself. Her voice, honed by decades of council chambers, carried the weight of unyielding steel. Though beneath her iridescent scales, a flicker of iridescent scales, another indignity forced upon her crown. Ambassador Veller inclined his elongated head, projecting the treaty hologram that bloomed like fractured starlight above the dais. Sovereign Ziral, the clause is non-negotiable. One human consort engineer, embedded within fleet operations, to certify shared technical sovereignty. The provinces insist. Their engineers detected anomalies only human diagnostics can verify. Veller's compound eyes gleamed with the finality of law. This alliance binds us, or the frontier fractures. Zyril's mandibles clicked once, a restrained tick betraying her disdain. I did not choose this primate tether. Meridian's fleets have guarded these voids for millennia without alien meddling. Yet duty compels. She swept her gaze across the High Counselors arrayed in tiered alcoves, Lord Malvar's predatory stance among them, his armored form radiating ambition like heat from a forge. Counselor Lise Aaron, her traditionalist rival, clutched an ancient codex, her frilled neck flaps quivering with unspoken protest. The air hummed with tension, the auditorium's vaulted arches amplifying every rustle of scale on stone. A herald's chime pierced the chamber, and the vast doors parted with a hydraulic sigh. In strode the human Jonah Reyes, clad in ceremonial envoy silks that hung awkwardly on his compact frame. Terran blues and silvers, embroidered with neutral sigils of alliance. He moved with deliberate poise, shoulders squared, dark eyes scanning the assembly without a flinch. No weapons, no entourage, just a satchel slung across his chest, its contents obscured. Zeril noted the composure. Humans were said to be fragile, impulsive mammals, yet this one betrayed no awe at the cavernous hall or the phalanx of armored guards flanking him. A performer, no doubt, she thought, chosen for spectacle over substance. Empress Zeril Fess, Reyes said, bowing precisely to waist level, his voice steady through the translation field that shimmered around him. Jonah Reyes, technical attaché from the United Human Enclaves, honored to serve the treaty's terms. The words flowed without hesitation, the field rendering his comment into flawless meridionic, though a faint harmonic undertone lingered, marking its artifice. Ziral nodded curtly, her crest flattening in regal dismissal. Your presence is noted, attaché Reyes. Proceed to the reception dais. The fleet awaits demonstration of your utility. Courtiers shifted, whispers rippling like wind through chitin. Lord Var's mandibles parted in a predatory grin. Lys Aaron's frills flared outright. The reception unfolded in orchestrated pomp. Trays of nutrient gels borne by servitors, diplomats exchanging data slates on treaty minutiae. Zeril held court at the dais' apex, fielding queries on frontier patrols while her peripheral senses tracked the human. Reyes mingled minimally, accepting a gel vial with polite nods, his posture unchanging amid the alien throng. Then, without prelude, the auditorium's lights stuttered, a deep thrum vibrating through the deck as the flagship's power conduits groaned in protest. Alarms warbled softly. Holographic displays flickered, casting erratic shadows. Gasps echoed. A counselor's slate winked out mid-projection. Conduit fault in the primary grid, Zeril snapped, her voice cutting the chaos. Engineering teams report. Her own engineers, elite Meridian techs with decades of service, swarmed from alcoves, probes extended. But the human, Reyes, did not hesitate. He set his satchel down, rolled up his sleeves with economical motions, and strode toward the dais' base where access panel hummed erratically, its status runes pulsing amber. Permission to assist, Sovereign? Reyes asked, already kneeling, his fingers dancing over the panel's seals without awaiting reply. Zeril's crest flared involuntarily. Insolence. Yet the fault escalated. Lights dimmed further, the treaty hologram collapsing into static. Granted. Briefly. Do not presume core access. She watched from her perch, arms crossed, as her engineers encircled him warily. Reyes popped the panel with a tool from his satchel, a compact multi-wrench. human forged and unadorned. His eyes narrowed, tracing the conduit's glow. Meridian grids were labyrinthine, woven with quantum relays that demanded rote calibration sequences. Faults like this had stalled her best techs for cycles, yet the human muttered under his breath, fingers probing junctions, bypassing a fried regulator with a jury-rigged shunt from spare cabling in his pack. He multitasked seamlessly, one hand stabilizing a power surge with a field dampener, the other recalibrating flow via a portable slate synced to the grid. Sweat beaded on his brow, but his movements held no tremor, no wasted motion. Within moments the thrum steadied, light surged back to full, holograms reignited crisp and true. The chamber fell silent. Engineers stared, their probes slack in grippers. Reyes rose, wiping his hands on his silks, and resealed the panel. Secondary relay cascade from microfracture in the quantum weave, isolated it with a feedback loop. Should hold until full replacement. Your grid's efficient, just needed a pattern tweak. Zyril descended the dais steps, her scales prickling with unwelcome surprise. The fix was flawless, executed in a fraction of standard diagnostic time. Luck, she told herself, or pre-knowledge from envoy briefings. Aloud, she said coolly, a fortunate patch attaché. Coincidence favors the prepared. Fleet engineers will verify. Public dismissal preserved her poise, but her core pulsed with calculation. This mammal had unraveled a fault her specialists chased blindly. The silence shattered. Counselor Lysaron surged forward. Codex raised like a blade. Sovereign, this is abomination. Ancient interdictions bar xenohands from core systems. Fleet sanctity demands purity. One meddling primate near our power heart invites sabotage. Her furls thrashed, rallying traditionalists. Murmurs swelled into objection. Lord Var leaned in, his voice a silken growl. The council concurs. The alliance teeters on farce if we yield command grids to inferiors. Revoke his station, Empress, lest factions fracture. Zyril felt the political blade twist. Lisa's bloc controlled key votes. Var's fleet's the muscle. Rejecting the human outright voided the treaty, ceding frontiers and her legitimacy. Accepting him risked court schism. Her gaze flicked to Reyes, standing impassive amid the glares. Satchel repacked as if the crisis were routine. Utility, perhaps. Temporarily. Strength demanded adaptation, not retreat. Enough, she commanded, her voice a thunderclap that flattened crests across the hall. The treaty binds us. I will not shatter it on prejudice. Attaché Reyes is accepted, provisionally. Assign him a guarded station on my bridge, under perpetual scrutiny. His credentials undergo formal inspection forthwith. She turned to him directly, mandibles firm. Prove your worth beyond parlor tricks, human, or depart in disgrace. Reyes inclined his head, unruffled. As you command, Sovereign, I'll coordinate with your teams. No boast, no flinch, just quiet readiness. Lysa sputtered protest. Var's eyes narrowed to slits, but Zyril's glare quelled them. Proximity would test him. Inspection would expose flaws. Yet as guards escorted Reyes toward the bridge lifts, the repaired conduit hummed steadily overhead, its glow mocking the court's certainties. One power line, mended by forbidden hands, now pulsed with quiet defiance, forcing nobles to confront what they assumed etched in stone. Meridian supremacy, unchallenged. Zyril lingered on the dais, watching the lift's seal. Duty had forged this chain. Competence might yet temper it. But trust? That remained a frontier yet uncharted. Counselor Lysaron's voice sliced through the grand chamber like a vibro-keen, her mandibles clicking with ritual precision as she unfurled the ancient scroll projection. By the edicts of the Third Concord, codified in the blood of our founders, no consort of foreign flesh shall sully the imperial line. This human clause in the treaty mocks our sanctity. Demand I a judicial review here and now, before the High Council witnesses the rot. Zyril's crest flared subtly beneath her regal mantle, the chamber's holographic arches pulsing with the murmurs of assembled lords and envoys. She remained rooted on the dais, her multifaceted eyes fixed on Lys, whose faction banners gleamed with traditionalist fervor. Public scrutiny coiled tighter. The broadcast feeds would carry this invocation across the Pact's core worlds, turning her treaty gambit into a spectacle. Duty demanded poise. She would not yield the floor first. From the shadowed annex, Jonah Reyes emerged at the summons of protocol chimes, his human frame unadorned save for the attaché insignia on his shoulder. He moved with the measured stride of one accustomed to volatile bridges, nodding to the visiting technical envoy from the outer rims, a hulking Vorak specialist whose armored plates hummed with impatience. The envoy's manipulator claws twitched toward a misaligned data slate, on the verge of triggering an unintended sync that would flood the chamber's secure nets with unvetted diagnostics. Reyes intercepted without flourish, his hands steady as he interfaced his own portable rig. Envoy Krell, if I may. The alignment matrix requires a phased offset for meridian harmonics. Direct link risks a cascade echo. His voice carried no boast, just the calm diagnostics of a tech versed in cross-species arrays. He adjusted the slate in a fluid sequence, fingers dancing across alien glyphs he'd parsed en route. Averting the breach before the Vorak's temper ignited, Krell's vents hissed in surprise, then approval, plates settling as the sync stabilized. Zeril observed from her vantage the human's composure a quiet anomaly amid the rising clamor. Where lesser aids would falter under Lys's glare or the envoy's bulk, Reyes juggled the protocol. Greeting forms recited flawlessly, data verified mid-exchange, even a subtle deference to Vorak dominance cues that smoothed the giant's ruffled pride. Contempt had colored her initial view of this ceremonial technician, a human trinket to appease the treaty's whims. Now, cautious interest stirred. His savvy extended beyond servos and circuits, threading diplomatic needles with the ease of breath. Yet she conceded nothing aloud. Her throne permitted no such fracture. Lucere pressed her advantage, her voice amplifying through the chamber's resonators. Empress, the human's presence poisons these halls. Expel him, lest the edicts deem you unfit. Before Zeril could respond, Lord Maelvar rose from his faction's curve, his fleet commander's pauldrons catching the light like predator spines. Here, the treaty's human clause invites chaos. File I formal motion for immediate expulsion. Let no soft-fleshed outsider linger while our pact frays. The chamber erupted in layered calls, hollow feeds capturing every mandible snap and crest flare. Zeril raised a single clawed hand, silencing the tide. Her voice resonated, laced with imperial steel. Expulsion serves no one but our foes. The treaty binds us. Its clauses stand until reviewed. Counselor Lys, your invocation merits hearing. We convene the judicial panel at dawn. Lord Mael, your motion is noted, but premature. The human remains under my oversight. His role as technical interlocutor intact. Mael's eyes narrowed, a flicker of calculation betraying his coup-honed ambition, but he bowed with feigned grace. Lys's mandibles ground audibly, her traditionalism a bulwark against change, yet even she could not defy open rejection without fracturing the council's fragile unity. As the session dissolved into sidebar murmurs, Zyrol summoned Reyes via private comm. He approached the dais unhurried, his expression neutral, as if averting diplomatic fire were mere routine. Your assessment, Attaché Reyes? He inclined his head, voice even. The envoy's rig was Vorak standard, but the chamber's dampeners demand a 17-degree phase shift. Your protocols prioritize stability over speed. Handled. She studied him, noting the subtle tension in his shoulders, the way he scanned the exiting lords without overt paranoia. Humans, she dismissed as fleeting innovators, prone to fatigue and factional squabbles. Yet here was endurance and poise, multitasking woven into protocol savvy that outpaced her own aide's rote training. You prevented escalation. Join the strategy briefing. Limited access. Speak as interlocutor. Observe the rest. A guarded concession, yes, but pragmatic. The treaty's technical clauses hinged on such demonstrations. Letting him interface might blunt Lys's interdictions with proof of value. Reyes nodded, no triumph in his eyes. As you command, Empress. In the antechamber's secure glow, as aides cleared the debris of debate, Zeril permitted a private channel to her fleet logs. Mael's amplification was predictable. His claim to her throne via succession law grew bolder with each faction he swayed. Lys's ancient edicts were the lever, expulsion, the wedge. Yet Reyes's intervention lingered, a thread of competence amid the intrigue. She updated her internal dossier. From expendable formality to potential asset, trust remained distant, but utility, that frontier edged closer. The judicial review loomed. Old laws dragged into the light. Reyes's station, once ceremonial shadow, now cast a longer silhouette, one that might steady her rule or unravel it entirely. Zeril turned from the viewport, where the capital spires pierced the nebulae-veiled night. Attaché, The briefings begin. Follow. He fell in step beside her honor guard, his presence a quiet challenge to the court's disdain. Lys's faction lingered in the halls, their whispers like venom trails while Mael's operatives shadowed the lifts. Duty chained them all. Competence would test the links. By contact. As they entered the strategy vault, holo maps of contested sectors blooming before them, Reyes's eyes flicked across the alien interfaces. He didn't flinch at the Meridian encryption lattices, patterns he'd begun decoding in transit, cross-referencing human field manuals with pact leaks. The rimward arrays show variance, he noted softly to the lead tactician, a point no one had flagged amid the political din. The tactician's crest twitched, amazement veiled as scrutiny. How did you pattern match? Reyes replied simply, overlaying a human-derived algorithm that synced the feeds without a full reboot. The map sharpened, revealing a cloaked enemy probe cluster that had evaded rote scans. Zero watched, her assessment shifting incrementally. This human didn't boast of his adaptability, didn't lecture on emotional reads that diffused the envoy. He simply worked, humble in execution, bridging gaps her people approached through exhaustive ritual. Cautious interest hardened to tactical regard. She gestured him forward. Elaborate for the council logs. Lord Mael's comm pinged then. A formal escalation filing through channels, expulsion renewed, laced with accusations of security breaches. Ziril dismissed it with a claw swipe, ordering the review to encompass all claims. Reyes stayed, under her gaze, proving his place beat by beat. The chamber's echoes faded, but the crisis brewed. Old interdictions met new necessities, and in their forge, alliances tempered or shattered. Empress Cyril These's primary mandible clicked sharply against the arm of her throne as the intelligence hologram flickered to life before the High Council's inner sanctum. Report the anomaly, she commanded, her voice a resonant chime that silenced the murmurs of her advisors. The supply line breaches, 3 freighters lost in as many cycles, their hulls breached not by weapons fire but by precision failures in the inertial dampeners, now carried a thread her analysts had missed, a repeating fractal pulse in the error logs, echoing the cipher styles of the neighboring Krell Dominion. Counselor Lysaren leaned forward, her iridescent carapace gleaming under the chamber's aurora lights. Forearms gesturing at the swirling data streams. Skeptical isolationists, your supremacy. The Krell have no love for our treaty with these soft-shelled humans, but proof eludes us. Our decryptors flag it as noise. Zero's compound eyes narrowed, facets glinting as she traced the pattern herself. Her fleet's best minds had combed those relays for cycles, yielding only dead ends. The Dominion's shadow play widened the stakes. If sabotage festered unchecked, the treaty's supply commitments would crumble, handing Maelvar's faction the pretext to invoke succession edicts. She turned her gaze to the human at the chamber's edge, Jonah Reyes, the unassuming technician in his plain envoy jumpsuit, standing with hands clasped behind his back, watching the display with quiet focus. Reyes stepped forward unbidden, his soft, furless face impassive, voice steady through the translation field. With respect, Counselor, it's not noise. May I? Without awaiting full permission, bold, for an outsider, he extended a hand toward the interface pedestal. Lys's mandibles parted in affront, but Ziril silenced her with a raised claw. Let the human prove his vaunted adaptability, or falter under scrutiny. His fingers danced across the haptic controls, pulling threads from the chaos. The hologram warped, isolating a subsequence. A subtle oscillation buried in the dampener feedback loops, repeating in prime intervals that mimicked Krell navigation beacons. There, Reyes said, voice calm as if noting a misaligned bolt. It's a ghost signal, piggybacking your relays. Triggers cascade failures only under load. Supply runs, not patrols. Human diagnostic teams see this in old Earth pirate hacks. It's pattern recognition across domains. Trace it back to the nearest node, and we find the insertion point. The chamber stilled. Lysaw's crest flared in disbelief. A human decodes what our quantum lattice cannot? Preposterous. Your kind lacks the neural density. Reyes met her gaze evenly. No defensiveness in his posture. Neural density spots the obvious. Sometimes you need lateral thinking. Connect the signal to unrelated ship behaviors. I've seen similar in jury-rigged colony rigs. Request permission for a field diagnostic run. Small team, your protocols. We isolate the node before the next convoy. Ziril waited, her secondary arms flexing against the throne's inlays. Necessity overrode prejudice. Her fleet's logistics bled, and Malvar's whispers grew in the outer halls. Quietly she tested. Could this fragile biped read threats her armored legions could not? Authorized, she declared, her tone brooking no dissent. Counselor Uren, provision the team. Reyes leads the diagnostic. Liss recoiled, her voice a hiss. Elevate an attaché to command? The High Council, debates after victory. Exile cut in, rising to her full height, iridescent plates shifting with imperial menace. Public decree issues now. The human binds to active duty under my warrant. Word spread like plasma through the fleet's comms web. By the time Reyes assembled his team, 2 Meridian techs, wary and clicking nervously, plus a human auxiliary from the Envoy shuttle, in the hangar bay of the dreadnought Aegis Crown, the political currents churned. Zero observed from the oversight gantry, her presence a deliberate signal. Below, Reyes moved with unhurried efficiency, calibrating the diagnostic probe with one hand while briefing the team in dual-language bursts, multitasking calibrations and cultural primers seamlessly. The Meridians exchanged glances. Humans endured shifts without fatigue signals, but this one juggled interfaces as if breathing. Probe syncs to relay node 47. Alpha, Reyes explained, his voice carrying up to her. We'll shadow the ghost signal live. If it's Krell, it'll ping home. The techs nodded, their reluctance thawing under his patient breakdowns. No lectures, just clear logic bridging their rote training to his creative overlays. As the shuttle detached, slipping into the void toward the contested supply lane, Zero retreated to her strategy vault. Holofeeds tracked the op. Reyes's readings already diverged from standard sweeps. Spotting microfluctuations her fleet dismissed as stellar interference. Pride flickered in her core. Her decision, her risk. Yet doubt gnawed. Malvar's faction simmered, and whispers of human taint echoed in the lower decks. Alarms pierced the calm 2 marks later. The oversight console flared red. Diagnostic gear malfunction. Reyes's shuttle feed stuttered. Probe readings inverting. False positives flooding the logs, branding the node as clean while masking deeper sabotage. A discredit play, blatant and desperate. Zero's crest snapped erect, bold, to strike under her warrant. She strode to the engineering bay, guards flanking her like shadowed blades. Velek froze mid-console wipe, his armored frame quivering as her shadow engulfed him. Sub-Commander, she intoned, voice a glacial cascade. You meddled with an imperial priority. Explain. Velok's mandibles worked futilely. Your supremacy. The human's gear. Unstable. A precaution. Lies corrode the pact. Her claw pinned his shoulder plate, sensors registering his panic pheromones. Arrest pending inquiry. Full audit of your cadre. The operation proceeds. Word of the confrontation rippled outward as Reyes's team adapted mid-void. On the shuttle feed he multitasked flawlessly, rerouting power from life support to stabilize the probe. Ignoring fatigue warnings his Meridian crew heeded. Bypass the tampered buffer, he directed calmly, fingers blurring across redundance. Pattern holds. Signal origin at node perimeter. Krell drone's signature confirmed. The text stared, one emitting a low chime of awe. You endured the flux without anchoring? Repaired en route? Just work. Seen worse on frontier halls. His voice held no boast, only the quiet resilience of one who pressed on. Back in the vault, Zero watched the trace lock, a Krell stealth boy, now slagged by pinpoint disruptors. Success hard won. Lyce Aaron entered, crest subdued. The human pierced it. Our lattice would have required a full sweep cycle. And Velek's faction exposed, Zero replied, her tone measured steel. Malvar tests boundaries. Reyes binds tighter now, indispensable. Liss hesitated, a rare fracture in her traditionalism.
He reads shadows we miss.
But the court will adapt. Zero turned from the feed, where Reyes debriefed his team with shared nods, pack bonding across chitin and skin. Her own resolve hardened. Duty forged this proximity. Competence tempered it. Yet as Mael's shadow lengthened, the human steady gaze lingered in her facets, a quiet connection amid the intrigue. In the hangar upon return, Reyes approached her directly, probe data slate extended. Signature decoded, Empress. Krell skepticism confirmed. Treaty viable if we harden the relays. Your call on escalation. She accepted it, claws brushing his hand, a fleeting contact, formal, yet charged, well-traced attaché. "You command more tomorrow." Her mandibles curved faintly, propriety cracking just enough for respect to gleam through. He nodded, oblivious to the wonder rippling in the watching techs. "Team effort. Your fleet's nodes gave us the backbone." As he departed, Liz murmured at her side, "Impossible patterns yielded to a human mind. What else do they conceal?" Exriel's eyes tracked him, political calculus shifting. A commander risked, a threat unveiled, and in the forge of necessity, an alliance gleamed brighter. The vault's doors sealed, but alerts pinged anew. Malvar summoning the Outer Council, Velik's arrest fueling whispers. The sabotage pattern decoded, yet deeper nodes pulsed unseen. Zero flexed her arms, strength unyielding. The human had proven his read. Now, she wagered a fleet on it. A shadow detached from the docking umbilical, slicing through the bridge's secondary hatch with a plasma cutter's hiss. Zero's crest flared in instinctive alarm as the intruder, cloaked in disruptor weave, meridian insignia crudely forged, lunged toward the core console. Guards surged forward, but the figure's disruptor pulse scattered them, nodes sparking in cascade failure. "Secure the Empress!" Captain Vorak bellowed, his armored form barreling past, but the saboteur pivoted, gauntleted fist cracking a guard's mandible, and pivoted again toward the primary thrust regulators. Catastrophic venting imminent, Zero calculated the odds in a heartbeat. Fleet immobility, supply lines severed, the Pact's flank exposed during this run. Then Reyes moved. The human, who'd been at the auxiliary panel tracing residual sabotage ghosts from Velik's mess, didn't hesitate. He vaulted the console in a fluid roll, shoulder-checking the nearest guard out of his own path without breaking stride. His hands blurred. One palm slapped a jury-rigged override into the intruder's disruptor, shorting its coil with a percussive pop. The other yanked a fiber-optic tether from his belt, slamming it into the bridge's nearest access port. "Node lockdown rerouting power," Reyes growled, voice steady amid the chaos, his fingers dancing across a holographic overlay only he seemed to parse. The saboteur whirled, drawing a vibroblade, but Reyes multitasked without flinch. He twisted the tether's protocol mid-plug, inverting the intruder's cloak field to strobe-blinding feedback. The alien staggered, blade whistling wide, and Reyes drove an elbow into its throat grill. Precise, economical, no excess force. Before wrenching the weapon free and pinning the figure face down with his knee. Alarms silenced in layers as Reyes verbally chained commands, his voice overlapping diagnostics. Regulators stable, breach sealed, tracing origin sig now. He didn't rise until the guards swarmed, cuffing the limp saboteur, his breaths even, no tremor in his stance. Sweat beaded his brow, but his eyes flicked back to the console, already cross-referencing the attack vector with the vault's prior pattern. Zero's mandibles clicked softly, her primary assessment fracturing. Humans. Fragile frames. Short lifespans. Tech jugglers by envoy tails. Yet this one had repelled a breach under direct blade threat, secured nodes while physically subduing a Meridian operative twice his mass, all without faltering. Operational competence layered atop raw endurance. He'd juggled combat, repair, and analysis as if breathing. Her gaze lingered on the faint bruise blooming on his forearm. No complaint, no pause. Recalibration complete. Not ceremonial. Indispensable. "Stand down," she commanded, voice cutting the bridge din like a decree horn. Guards parted. Reyes straightened, wiping his hands on his tunic, deference in his nod but no deference in his poise. "Technician Reyes, your intervention preserved the fleet. Honor demands reciprocity." She signaled Captain Vorak with a crest flick, grant him access to the sparring vaults. Full integration with the Imperial Guard rotations. Let him train as one who has bled for the throne. Vorak's frills quivered. Protocol breach, a human amid sacred drills. But he bowed. As her radiance decrees. Reyes blinked, surprise flickering before he masked it with a crisp, "Understood, Empress, grateful for the trust." Trust, the word hung, unbidden. Zero quelled it, duty, not sentiment. Yet as the bridge cleared, supply crates docking unmolested, she noted the guards' sidelong glances at Reyes, dismissal thawing to curiosity. The High Council chamber convened via HoloLink an hour later, the assassination attempt rippling outward like a warp tear. Lord Malvar's image dominated the projection, his fleet pauldrons gleaming, voice booming with feigned outrage. A saboteur on the flagship during supply run? This reeks of human meddling radiance. Panic grips the outer sectors. Retribution now, or we fracture. Counselor Lisarin leaned into her feed, her legalist robe stark white, eyes like probe lenses. The intruder bore meridian marks, yet the human, coincidence? Or staged theater to embed him deeper? Ancient interdictions bar alien hands on our core systems. I demand his detention, immediate and public, to restore order. The pact watches. Murmurs cascaded from the outer council links, panic faction baying for isolation, retribution block for preemptive strikes, Mael's frill pulsed approval. Lys's accusation struck at the treaty's heart, framing Reyes as toxin. Zyril rose from her dais, the chamber's air thickening under her presence. Strength unyielding, she let formality crack just enough, mandibles parting in a regal smile that bared no threat, only inevitability. Counselor Lys, your vigilance honors tradition, yet imperial prerogative supersedes hasty verdicts. Technician Reyes repelled the breach single-handed, saving nodes that would have doomed us all. Detention? For the hand that steadied the throne? Lys's crest flattened. Radiance. Appearances. Appearances yield to evidence. Zyril overrode, her voice a silken blade. I launch a covert inquiry now. True conspirators unmasked, not scapegoats. The human remains at my side. Proven. Dissent noted. But the fleet sails on my word. Mael's image darkened, his summons thwarted. Lys withdrew with a stiff bow, faction whispers polarizing further. Consensus cracked, yes, but Zyril's authority held. Reyes shielded not his consort, but asset. Personal connection stirred unwelcome, his humility amid competence, reading her unspoken signals without presumption. As the hololink severed, a guard approached, saluting. Radiance. The saboteur awakens in holding. Partial confession. Velak's network, that funded externally. And Reyes requests sparring at dawn. Shall I confirm? Zyril flexed her arms, the wager deepening. Confirm, and monitor Counselor Lys's comms, discreetly. In the antechamber, Reyes awaited, toolkit slung, reviewing bridge logs on a portable slate. He glanced up as she passed, offering a human gesture. A slight incline, genuine, Empress. If there's more patterns to chase, there are. She paused, propriety thinning. You adapt swiftly, Reyes. The guards will test that tomorrow. His smile was brief, unassuming. Looking forward to learning from them. Duty compelled proximity. Competence forged the bridge. But as alerts pinged anew, Mael's fleet maneuvering oddly, Lys rallying traditionalists. Zyril sensed the conspiracy coiling tighter. The humans Red had saved them once. Now partnership beckoned through fire. Dawn broke over the sparring vaults. Cavernous holds ringed by observation galleries. Imperial guards circled Reyes, their chitinous forms rippling under training harnesses. Meridian warriors bred for endurance marathons, precision strikes. Vorak himself oversaw. Frills neutral. Human? You claimed the breach. Prove it here. No blades. Yield when broken. Reyes stripped to tunic and trousers, rolling shoulders with quiet focus. No bravado. Just the same steady prep as diagnostics. The first guard lunged, a faint jab combo testing reach. Reyes sidestepped, not evading but redirecting momentum, using the alien's mass against itself, countering with a pressure point tap that buckled the knee without fracture. Gasps rippled the gallery. Zyril watched from the dais, her own estimate sharpening. Pattern recognition in combat, adapting meridian flows he'd glimpsed only in passageways. He multitasked even here, dodging a flank while signaling Vorak on a weak guard stance, voice calm. Left guard, overcommit on the pivot, exposed. Vorak grunted approval, adjusting the roster mid-drill. Reyes endured 3 rotations, fatigue absent where meridians flagged, his creativity blooming, improvising grapples from human joint locks, blending with their rigid forms. A final bout pinned him briefly, but he reversed with a novel torque. Yielding space to gain leverage, the guards stilled, respect dawning in crest nods. Vorak clasped his forearm. You fight as kin, technician. Routines open to you. Reyes bowed, breathing measured, honored to train with the best. Zyril descended, the connection personal now. Mutual. You've recalibrated us, Reyes, as we you. His eyes met hers, humble spark, just doing the work, Empress. Yet as they exited, a covert ping arrived. Lys's inquiry traces leading to Mail's aides. The defense routines integrated Reyes deeper. The conspiracy, exposed inch by inch. Court consensus frayed, but her throne stood firmer, human hands steadying it. Supply run secured, fleet vectors realigned. Zeral's wager held, but deeper nodes pulsed, unseen. Mail's summons echoed, retribution brewed. Partnership forged in breach and bout faced its true test. Counselor Lysarin thrust the crystalline data slate forward, its holographic projection blooming like a venomous flower amid the vaulted chamber's obsidian glow. Succession Statute 7 Prime, Empress Zyral. She intoned, her frilled throat flaps quivering with rehearsed outrage. A consort of foreign blood, human no less, taints the lineage. Heirs born under such shadow would ignite the outer sectors. Revolt festers already. Expel the primate now, or watch your throne fracture. Zeral's mandibles clicked once, a measured restraint amid the council's susurrus of agreement. Seated upon the apex throne, its neural webs humming against her exoskeletal ridges, she surveyed the chamber. High counselors in tiered alcoves, their bioluminescent eyes pulsing in syncopated judgment. Lord Mail's absence gnawed at her, summoned yet delayed, his fleet maneuvers a shadow play beyond the palace shields. The supply run's fragile victory lingered in her thoughts, vectors realigned, but this. Precedent binds us, Counselor Aaron, Zeral replied, her voice a resonant chime through the Vox amplifiers. The Meridian Pact endures not by isolation, but alliance. The human, Reyes, has proven his utility in crisis. Dismissal invites the very chaos you decry. Aaron's crest flared crimson. Utility? He is no kin. Behold, the ancient will of your predecessor, unearthed from the vaults. The slate shimmered, projecting faded glyphs, a decree barring off-world unions, signed in the late Empress's pheromonal seal. Gasps rippled, even loyalists shifted. Invoke it, or the factions rise. Zeral's primary eyes narrowed. Forgery? Possible, amid Mail's brewing retribution, but proof eluded her here, in this nest of vipers. The matter stands adjourned until verification. A side portal hissed open. Jonah Reyes entered. Unbidden, his human frame clad in the fitted envoy silks that strained against his broad shoulders. He carried no weapons, only a compact diagnostic pad clutched in one calloused hand. The council's murmurs spiked to hisses, a human, striding the sacred floor unescorted. Empress, Reyes said, voice steady, bowing precisely to her dais without groveling. Counselors, I've intercepted something you need to see. Now. Aaron's throat flaps snapped shut. Insolence. Guards. Hold. Zeral's command froze the chamber. Reyes's timing intrigued her. He'd lingered in the antechambers during the supply crisis, eyes ever on the data streams. Humble technician, they'd called him. Yet his quiet vigilance had realigned her fleet's faltering nodes when her engineers faltered. He activated his pad, linking it to the central hologram. The forged will flickered, then warped under overlaid scans. This ancient will, it's a composite. Layer 3, authentic seal from your predecessor's era, but the barring clause? Inserted 6 cycles ago, via microsplice on a secondary archive node. Source trace leads to Lord Mail's personal cipher lock. The chamber erupted. Counselors leaned forward, their chemosensors twitching as Reyes multitasked the reveal. Cross-referencing live intercepts on a split hologram, pulsing red lines spider-webbed from Mail's fleet signatures to shadowed relays in neighboring Empire space. These comms, decoded en route, encrypted bursts, but human pattern matching cracked the key. He's coordinating a blockade with the Vorath Exarchs. Mutiny signal embedded, palace security overrides. Timed for tonight. Zeral's secondary hearts quickened. Mail's delay crystallized. Not absence, but positioning. Reyes had juggled fleet telemetry, archive dives, and crypto breaks without a fatigue sigh, his fingers blurring across interfaces while her aides rotated shifts. Ordinary for him, she'd dismissed once. Now, indispensable. Aaron recoiled, her eyes dimming in shock. Impossible. Mail is loyal? Evidence speaks. Zeral cut in, rising. Her shadow engulfed the dais. Reyes's diligence preserves us. The human remains. Council dismissed. As the chamber emptied in stunned waves, Zeral gestured Reyes closer, her voice dropping to private vox. You risk much, entering unbidden. Why? He met her gaze, unblinking, no boast in his posture. Duty, Empress. Your line, your pact. It's worth the work. Male's moves connect dots others miss. I just followed them. She studied him. This soft-skinned biped, enduring her court's disdain without retort, adapting to Meridian codebases faster than her specialists. Humble, yet his resilience anchored her now. Expel him? Political calculus shifted. His expulsion would validate the forgery's lie, fracture loyalties further. No. Bind him closer. In the throne's neural sanctum, shielded from spies, Zyril etched the decree herself. Photon's searing crystal. By my crest mark, Jonah Reyes, elevated to consort protector, authority over palace security details. Limited, revocable. You safeguard the throne's integrity. Reyes's brow furrowed briefly. Surprise quickly masked. Honor, Empress, I'll earn it. Their eyes locked, formality cracked, a thread of trust weaving through. Partnership, tested in breach, deepened. Alarms wailed before dawn's first pulse. Zyril surged from her rest cocoon, armored robe snapping to place as vox screens bloomed with chaos, palace guards fracturing, Male's loyalists seizing East Wing armories. Beyond the shields his fleet loomed, Vorath's shadows merging in blockade formation, dreadnoughts sealing escape vectors. Status! She barked into the command nexus, loyal captains materializing holographically. Mutiny confirmed, Majesty. Captain Veller reported, his carapace scarred from the supply run. Male's signal overrides half the details. Fleet holds the line, but Vorath guns charge. Zyril's mandibles ground. Male's gambit. Choke her palace. Force concession or siege. Loyal fleet. Break that blockade. Flank the Vorath weak axis. Their plasma vents lag on recharge. Vectors locked. She turned to Reyes, already at the sabotage console, fingers dancing across hybrid interfaces. Meridian and human overlays synced by his improvisation. Consort protector, Male's external support hinges on those relays. Sever them. Take a strike team. Infiltrate the undergrid. Overload the comm nodes. Reyes nodded, grabbing a utility harness without hesitation. On it. Give me 10 minutes to scout patterns. I'll multitask the breach codes while moving. No bravado, just calm efficiency. He rallied a mixed detail. Meridian guards, their crests dipping in wary respect, and vanished into the service fence. Zyril watched the feeds, Rhea's leading point. Adapting to zero drifts her troops lumbered through, his body enduring the strain as theirs flagged. Pattern recognition flared on his pad. Relay weak points others overlooked, connecting thermal vents to power surges. A guard stumbled. Reyes hauled him up with a steady grip, earning a grudging crest nod. Explosions bloomed on outer screens, her fleet slamming the blockade, Vorath hulls venting plasma. Inside, mutineers clashed in corridors, but Reyes's team ghosted unseen. Then his vox crackled. Nodes prepped, firing overload. 3, 2, the palace shuddered as relay chains detonated, Male's fleet links severing like cut nerves. Vorath's signatures scattered. Her dreadnoughts pressed the breach. Male's face intruded on primary vox, twisted in fury. Yield, Zyril! The council sees your frailty, clinging to a human pet. She leaned into the projection, regal fury gleaming. See your forgery fail, Lord Var. My consort protector unmasks you. Surrender or burn. Hesitation flickered in his eyes, amazement at the severed lines. Reyes is doing, her human, humble, and relentless. As loyalists reclaimed the armories, Reyes emerged, harness scorched but stride unbroken. Guards flanking him with newfound deference. Their chemosensors pulsed admiration, whispers spread of the human's endurance. His novel cascade overload that Meridian engineers now scrambled to replicate. Zyril met him at the nexus threshold, her claw brushing his shoulder, a rare contact, propriety yielding to alliance. You turned the tide, Jonah. The throne endures because of you. He smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his brow. Team effort, Empress. Your fleet's the hammer. I just found the pin. In that moment, prejudice crumbled fully. Male's coup reeled, the forged will exposed, her line secured by this unlikely bond. But deeper nodes still pulsed. Retribution's embers glowed. The partnership faced greater tests, yet now it stood unbreakable. Alarm shattered the throne chamber's hush, crimson strobes pulsing across gilded walls as the orbital grid screamed its warning. Empress Thess surged to her feet, her crest flaring rigid against the neural feed flooding her implants. Lord Malvar's dreadnoughts had broken formation, weapons hot, a strike vector locked on the palace core. "Shields to maximum," she barked, voice a whip crack that silenced the scattering courtiers. Her gaze snapped to Jonah Reyes, the human already at the auxiliary console, his fingers a blur across hybrid interfaces no Meridian hand could navigate without strain. "Impact in 90 seconds, Reyes confirmed, his tone-level eyes flicking between 3 holoscreens at once. Shield diagnostics, power relays. He didn't look up, didn't falter, as if rerouting a fleet killer barrage was just another shift's endgame. Zyril felt the old disdain flicker, then die. This male had unraveled Male's forgeries, held her line when blood called for it. Now, with mutiny blooming into apocalypse, he was her edge. Technical crews swarmed the lower bays under his lead, Reyes barking orders in clipped Meridian laced with human shorthand that somehow bridged the gap. Isolate the tertiary nodes, reroute from auxiliary fusion banks. No, skip the failsafes, pattern match the overload signatures from the last drill. A Vexari engineer hesitated, its multifaceted eyes whirring in confusion. Human, that bypasses protocol. Protocol's a coffin if we wait. Reyes shot back, already splicing cables with a jury-rigged tool from his belt. He worked without pause, sweat beading on his bare skin, juggling flux calibrations while verbally guiding 2 more teams through comms. Endurance like that, hours without a breath of fatigue, left the Vexari gaping, its manipulator arms twitching as it mimicked his improvisation. Zyril watched via override feed, her pulse steadying. Humans bent systems like reeds. Males wrote blockades crumbled before such fluid adaptation. "Shields holding at 60%, Reyes reported, voice threading through the chaos. Power shunted to arrays. Targeting restored. I've got lock on their lead cruiser." Zyril's mandibles clicked in resolve. No proxies, no seclusion in the sanctum. She strode to the command dais, linking her neural crown directly to the palace grid. "Reyes, synchronize with me, your locks. My vectors." It was concession and command entwined, formal propriety cracking under fire's truth. He nodded once, no triumph in his eyes, just focus, as if partnering an empress was routine. Their rhythm ignited. Zyril's strategic overlays bloomed in shared holospace, her fleet instincts plotting intercept arcs while Reyes fine-tuned the precision, spotting micro-flaws in Male's formation that her arrays had glossed. There, weak seam in their ventral shields, echoing the drill flaw you patched last cycle. His pattern recognition wove through her tactics like invisible silk, turning blunt retaliation into a scalpel strike. Together they unleashed. Defensive lances speared the mutineers' vanguard, coordinates Reyes had resurrected shearing through armor as if scripted. The palace shuddered under grazing hits, but the capital endured. Male's dreadnoughts reeled, secondary explosions blooming silent in the void. Cheers erupted from the tech bays, Vexari and Meridian alike slapping Reyes' shoulders in stunned camaraderie, gestures no protocol sanctioned, yet none rebuked. Zyril felt the shift ripple through linked feeds, courtiers' whispers turning to awe, Counselor Lysaren's rigid posture softening as holos replayed the sync. Mutual dependence, laid bare, the court saw it now. As the mutineers fragmented, surrender pings flooding in, Zyril faced the aftermath's fork. Male's core cabal knelt in chains before the dais, low-level ensigns trembling beside them. Pawns or zealots. Ruthless purge would cauterize dissent, her fleets enforcing iron stability. Yet legitimacy demanded more. The treaty's fragility, her lines hard-won proof, hinged on justice's light, not vengeance's shadow. "Spare the ranks," she declared, voice carrying to every comm. "Targeted tribunals for the architects. Law binds us, not blades." Lysaren stepped forward, her frills quivering. "Empress, mercy invites relapse." "Mercy fortifies," Zyril cut in, eyes on Reyes, who stood quiet amid the techs, wiping tools with mechanical calm. His resilience anchored her choice. He'd seen humans fracture under less, yet rebuild without grudge. The council murmured assent, the weight of witnessed salvation tipping scales. In the grand atrium, under the vaulted stars of the Pact's banners, Zyril raised her voice for all to hear. Jonah Reyes has proven beyond consort's ceremony. I endorse him as permanent partner, technical, tactical, sovereign, equal in alliance. Ratify the human pact, let Meridian thrive entwined. Silence gripped, then Liz Aaron bowed low, her voice resonant, ratified by council will. Applause thundered, courtiers' crests, blooming in unity. Male shadow fled, the bond cemented, political and profound. Later in the sanctum's veiled glow, away from eyes and edicts, they faced each other across the oath altar. No crowds, no splendor, just chosen words, sanctioned by ancient rite. Ziril extended her primary claw, its edge sheathed in trust. I, Ziril Theus, bind my rule to your steadiness, not subject, but counterweight. Forge with me. Reyes met her grasp, his hand warm, calloused from fields she'd never trod. And I, Jonah Reyes, pledge my craft to your vision. Equals in crisis, partners in peace. No poetry, just truth. His humility a quiet fire that matched her steel. Their oaths sealed with a shared neural pulse, roles reshaping. Empress no longer solitary, technician no mere attaché. The Empire's future bent toward them, collaborative horizon gleaming. She was born to rule, and learned that true power lay in finding an equal.